I feel like Dennis Quaid is going to be on this podcast.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
So anybody listening that knows anybody that knows Dennis Quaid or the man himself, let him know. I just feel like I've reached out to him. I think he lives here in town.
Does he?
Yeah. He does a lot of Christian movies now. I think he's kind of reborn.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's going to be on. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he is. For some reason, it's just he pops into my head.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York, Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting.
Oh, come on.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Mostly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it will be riveting. Not to throw shade on me, Mr. Matt Wilson, Carey, whatever your name is this week. No, I got to give him some props. He's been nice enough to voice the new intro because I've voiced his intro in the past with his podcast, Mostly Marketing with Matt Wilson. You should check him out. And we've been pals since 1997, going back to our radio days, so it's all good. Yes, this is a what was formerly known as the What's Your Problem podcast. It is now the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. It is a mouthful. Where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about all things going on in their lives, from problems to wins, successes, challenges, all that stuff. Mostly with people around here, Middle Tennessee. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at mmtbp.com. Yeah, it takes a little while. The other way is a mouthful. Middle Tennessee, mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. But hey, once you have it in your phone, set it and forget it, right? The shortest way to do it is MMTBP. And please, once again, we're trying to get a ton of about 10,000 views per episode, downloads and such. So if you can help us out, you like what we're doing, or if you know somebody that's actually in Middle Tennessee doing business, because there's so many people moving into this state from all parts of the country, share it with them. That would be wonderful. I am your host with Jim McCarthy with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and it'sYourShow.co, where we produce podcasts like this. So check us out. And today, on the inaugural rebranded episode of this new endeavor that we're doing, a soul that I found kinship in because we're both percussive and rhythmic, right?
Absolutely.
Mr. David Berck with RoofMaxx. And you've been doing your thing for quite some time, right?
Well, I've been doing one thing or another for quite some time.
One thing or another. Where are you from, or where do you hail from?
So, born in Georgia, grew up in the very tip of California, Northern California. Those who live there call it the state of Jefferson.
Okay, why's that?
Well, it was on the docket to succeed from the state in just before World War II.
Right.
Because it's farming. It's much like Tennessee. It's farmlands and, a lot of space, mountains, Gandalf.
It's all, Northern California itself has got like 4 states in it. I mean, it has at least, right?
At least, yeah.
So, I mean, it's one giant republic, people's republic of sorts. And when did you come here? Because were you part of the influx of people that moved to the state?
I was, but I had come out before then. So rural towns in Northern California growing up, mostly, and then I guess high school and college was in San Jose and moved around more of Middle Tennessee, what most of California calls Northern California. We from the north called Middle, but I moved out to I spent a few years in Memphis out of college, so I loved the South, and lived here before, and just really had an affinity for it. But we moved here just before COVID shut down the world. We moved here. Just before the tornado, just a few days before the tornado ripped through town. Oh, wow. So March of, February, March of 2020. Yeah. I can't remember which one it was, but it was, we were literally here. We might have been here maybe a week.
Oh my gosh.
All the alarms are going off on the phone. And I got this notice, not really preparing for it, with a hailstone, tornado warning, or if it was warning or what, it wasn't watch, it was a warning.
Yeah.
And, hail and all the rest of it. I immediately thought back to 20 years earlier in Memphis when a hailstorm came through and decimated everyone's cars. And so immediately I was like, we've got to get everything out of the garage now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, because we had just moved in, the garage was full. So we literally within 5 minutes, everything came in and we had the cars inside.
Was it one of those things you're like, oh, I forgot about that? This being part of Tennessee.
Yeah. Plus adrenaline.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Got to move now.
Yeah. Because that was one thing that I even remember when we first moved here from Vegas in 2005. When springtime rolled around, we had just moved into our brand new house that December. And we had a doozy of a spring storm come through. Apparently a tornado touched down, I don't know, within a half a mile to a mile from where we were. But it sounded like a howitzer was pointed at our house. And the siding of our house got thrashed. And I was going, what in the... What do we moved to friggin', Kansas? And people I worked with are like, oh, welcome to Middle Tennessee. I'm like, really? Is it that tornadic here? Like, oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. I had no idea.
What time of day was it? Was it daytime?
It was nighttime. It was a Friday. I just got home from work. We ordered pizza for dinner, and my wife was pregnant with our first child. So our dog, it was just she and I and our dogs. And it just came out of nowhere. It's the only time, knock on wood, that it ever happened that badly. But man, just harrowing. I've never been through anything like that in my life. Yeah. And it was just so terrifying.
I was in Memphis, I guess it was 98-ish.
Yeah.
And one came ripping through, and it was in the middle of the day. So I got to see the
funnel and everything.
The clouds turning green, lightning striking everywhere, including right in front of where my friend and I were driving, and it hit a pole. Yeah. And it freaked me out.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it was, I'm like, oh.
But that was, 05, 06 was a rough year for tornadic weather. And then, of course, we had the floods in 2010, which was a 100-year flood.
Yeah, I had a buddy that lost a bunch of guitars in that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Or you knew somebody, or you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, gosh. I didn't. A buddy of mine, he has acoustic, a huge collection of.
I have a famous picture of my buddy, actually, his book. I'm going to give him a plug right now. Mr. Rich Redmond with the Jason Aldean Band. He's got a book out called Making It in Country Music. It is racing up the charts as we speak. It is one of the best books out there, especially if you want to take advantage of his 30-plus years of just music business know-how and knowledge. There's a famous picture of him at Soundcheck in downtown Nashville dumping water out of his custom-made Sonor 26-inch bass drum. It had a red to black fade sparkle finish. And I think when he says it's an $8,000 bass drum.
Oh, no. I mean, I used to have a Sonar snare. It was $1,200.
He ended up turning it into a coffee table.
Yeah, because what are you going to do?
Right. I mean, a beautiful coffee table at that. But before we get any further, we got to give props to Mr. Ed Fox.
Here come the dad jokes.
That's right, the dad jokes. The dad joke challenge. And you know what? Well, I'm going to make it a challenge now. With everything rebranded as we've been doing, I'm going to say if you laugh and if I laugh, let's keep track. And I think maybe I should get a pen and paper here just to keep track of.
Maybe the challenge should be to get through the dad jokes.
It's a challenge.
Without laughing.
Yeah, but it's sometimes if you feel the propensity to laugh, then just be honest about it.
Or try not to crack a smile.
Right. So the Dad Joke Challenge is brought to you by Trade Bank of Nashville. If you have a business, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do, or at least work for one, and you have, products or services, maybe you want to tap into an alternative economy and network with other like-minded businesses that see trade as a possibility for them as well. It's a way for you to trade your items for pennies on the dollar. So whatever it costs you to manufacture those services or come up with those services or those items, that's essentially your cost because you're selling them in trade for the retail value of those goods and services for other goods and services that businesses are out there. So, if you need a business telephone system, there are some vendors on Trade Bank Network that can get you a business telephone system within your business, and you do it by trade. It's no money out of pocket for you. So check them out. All the details are in the description, the links and all that good stuff. And of course, Ed Fox does the dad jokes. He comes up with them. He's quite the aficionado when it comes to them. Literally, he's local here. So if you guys want to meet with him reach out, have a cup of coffee. I guarantee you he will have dad jokes spontaneously.
Galore.
He literally wears a pin that says, ask me for a dad joke. He's got one at the ready every single time. So here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
Why don't ants get sick? Because they have antibodies.
Antibodies. Barakish. Yes. Joke number 2. We do 5 of them. So both you and I are 0 for 0.
Man, my new thesaurus is terrible. Not only that, it's also terrible.
I laughed.
I got a chuckle.
Yeah.
You got a chuckle. I was thinking of my eldest son on that one.
1 for 1.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I have an addiction to cheddar cheese, but it's only mild.
Only mild, not sharp, just mild.
He almost got a chuckle. It was an eye roll on that one.
Yeah, that was. They typically get better. So this is number 4. Here we go.
Here we go.
Imagine if America switched from pounds to kilograms overnight. There would be mass confusion.
Mass confusion. Because they measure mass.
It's still,
Okay, I'm gonna have to.
he gets a half a point on that.
Yeah, half a point. You think?
Well, he got half. He got you. He didn't get me on that one. It was another eye roll.
Okay. The final one. Here we go.
I'm being hard on it.
I tried to organize a professional hide-and-seek tournament, but it was a complete failure. Yeah, it turns out good players are hard to find.
It's hide and seek.
God bless it.
We both kind of chuckled on that one. So
we'll give it to him.
You won by half a point.
Yeah. I'll take it.
We'll go with that. So there you go. The Dad Joke Challenge, once again brought to you by Trade Bank of Nashville. Again, reach out to Ed Fox. You can be able to find him on all the different socials. He's got his own podcast called the Nashville 2 Podcast. And he's got books out there. I think they're downloadable. Grown-tastic dad jokes. And again, you reach out to the guy, ask him for a coffee. He'd probably be delighted to meet up with you. At least I hope I'm not overextending his welcome. He's like, dude, I'm getting lunatics reaching out to me. Not that my listeners are lunatics, all right? Oh my gosh, I'm going to stop talking. So here we go. We're going to keep on going. You and I kind of hit it off because in BNI, you and I are part of the Wilco chapter of BNI.
Yep.
And I do all the AV stuff with our AV team, Mr. AJ Russell with Matson Alarm and Andrew Daniel with AT&T.
Yep. Great
guys to have on my team that come in week in and week out, bringing the music and the sound effects and the fun, hopefully, and making the meeting a little bit more exceptional than normal. Yeah. We were doing I think we were on a Rush mood one day.
Yeah.
And you were like, dude, crushing it with the music. And that's when we found out, you just locked eyes with me. We're both air drumming
yeah.
And you're just like, we're playing Tom Sawyer and the roundhouse fills and the yeah, look at us. We're freaking lunatics right here. So instant connection because we have that animalistic early man's first instrument kind of connection, man.
Neil Peart.
That's right. Is it Peart or Peart?
Peart.
Yeah.
Remember the Buddy Rich Memorial?
Yes.
And she said, Neil Peart. And all of us went, how can she get it wrong? Turns out
she wasn't wrong.
She wasn't wrong.
She should know. She's been hanging out with him.
We all called him, Neil Peart.
Wasn't that Kathy Rich that did the MC?
Daughter.
Yeah. Buddy Rich's daughter. And also in the movie I Love You, Man, there is an outtake by Funny or Die. Remember those guys? It was collegehumor.com, I believe. And it was with Paul Rudd and Jason Segel, who were in the movie together. I Love You, Man. They're both they play characters who love Rush, and Rush makes a cameo in the movie.
That's why. Okay, because I hadn't seen the movie, but when I went to see him up north, they were in a cameo in the actual
like they were
show.
Backstage, right?
Yeah, it was the backstage thing where they were eating his food and all the rest of it.
And he was eating Neil's sandwich.
Well, I didn't get it.
And Paul Rudd, I think it was Paul Rudd's character, was trying to correct Neil on his own last name. He's like, I think I ought to know how to pronounce my own. He's like, no, it's Peart. He goes, it's my last name. I think I ought to know.
Yeah.
Where were you? Do you remember where you were when you found out he died? He died in January of 2020.
I remember being shocked, but I don't remember exactly where I was. I think I just immediately started texting buddies.
Yeah.
fellow musicians.
I was recording a podcast with Rich, another drummer, having another drummer on the podcast.
Oh, man.
And
it went from a good time to a somber.
You see my visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Right there on camera, because I find out while we're recording.
The professor.
And I basically interrupted them and said, guys, we got some breaking news first for the Rich Redmond show while we're recording. Because I was always like the executive producer finding little details and factoids. Rich was the main host.
Right.
And I would chime in from time to time. And I said, Neil Peart it was just announced that he passed. And it was like, oh my God, it was like a gut punch.
Yeah.
And this kid that we were interviewing, I think he was maybe 19 or 20, huge drum fanatic. He played the drummer in the movie I Can Only Imagine. So by the biopic, biopic about Mercy Me and the song that broke them big.
Yeah.
So he actually played the character of the drummer.
Okay.
That was the kid we were talking to.
Oh, wow.
And this kid, his mother was there and everything. I mean, it was like almost to tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He, it was for me, I don't know who it was for you, but growing up, it was Stuart Copeland, Neil Peart.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because either you were in Stuart's camp or Neil's camp, which is interesting. There's a dichotomy there.
Yeah. I was in both. I was like, all the above. My dad's a now retired pastor.
Yeah.
So I had, I grew up with very strict, a really strict home, and I wasn't allowed to listen to a lot of
rock.
Different, Yeah, it was essentially Christian music or just about nothing.
Right.
So I was, I was bootlegging Def Leppard and, Metallica and all these things that I had stuffed under the mattress or whatever, but
trying to listen to him with headphones.
But I got a tape I took a couple of lessons from somebody from high school, and he put on some Police songs on that tape and Little China Girl. So Omar Hakim, right?
Yeah.
Who went on to play for Sting when he departed the Police. So I fell in love with Stuart Copeland, Omar Hakim, Manu Katché, who we were talking about earlier, incredible feel, and of course Neil Peart. See, I did it again. I went back to my early days. Yeah, incredible drummer. The
cool thing about doing the podcast with Rich is talking to some of our heroes. Rich indulged me, even though this particular genre of music isn't something that he's always been into, but I've been a metal guy probably since the late 80s, early 90s, Anthrax being a huge influence on me. We got Charlie Benante on the podcast, and that was like, me being just a kid in a candy store, because he was a huge influence on my playing back in the day.
Really nice guys. It's like one of those things where you expect these guys to be super like rough around the edges.
No, and I have a theory on that.
And just the nicest guys.
Like all these guys that spend a majority of their professional lives up there, thrashing around, just getting it all out. Like James Hetfield, you hardly ever see the guy not smiling. He's always got a smile on his face. Tom Araya from Slayer, the lead singer and bass player from Slayer. He's always just, what a smile the guy has. He doesn't always look like, I'm sure he's got his moments, but man, in every single picture, he just looks like a happy guy. And you start thinking about it. These guys do nothing but, cathart on stage and get it all out. Yeah, it's like therapy.
Hitting the relief valve of the pressure cooker.
Yeah, they got nothing to be upset about. They get it all out on stage, like working out constantly. That's my theory.
That's a pretty good theory.
Thank you. So coming from California and from Georgia, West Tennessee and everything, you said recently from 2020, you moved here from Cali, Northern Cali.
Yeah, from the Monterey Peninsula. So by then we were more central. What
were you doing when you got here?
So we moved here without, I had been working on a project to get a wellness company up and running in the cannabinoid space. So everything other than THC, right? So from the hemp plant versus the cannabis plant, and ended up meeting, ironically, getting introduced to some guys from Santa Barbara. Here we were just now I'm in Tennessee. And I get an intro from some guy, from a friend of mine on the Monterey Peninsula, to some guys in Santa Barbara. Long story short, they had a finished product line, which wasn't exactly what my friend and I were. It wasn't the collection we would have put together of products, but it was a really high end, really well done.
Emphasis on high.
Yeah, right.
A really high end.
You need to have the tools. You have it?
Yeah, I guess got to search for it. Keep going.
Yeah.
I got it.
You've got to have that at the ready.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. So I ended up putting together our business model with their products. They were having an initial challenge getting the word out and getting the products to market. So we packaged our business model with their products and ramped up a company. And within a couple of years, we went from being here in the United States to nearly 30 countries around the world with a relatively small team. So I ran the company and had a lot of responsibilities, and I have 2 young boys. And when the company sold after 2.5 years in, I guess I helped with the transition, and then I had a long, deep breath and exhale and thought, what do I want to do next? And I just didn't want to go to work in a corporate environment and have that heavy pressure. I just didn't want to sign up for that. I wanted to be present as a dad. So I started looking for like franchises or different business models where it could be, block and tackle, go to work, find something in a niche that made sense, that had great value to the end consumer, was relatively new, or something in that genre. I've been, part of a number of different, ventures, from startups in the luxury space with some tech guys to wellness to energy and a bunch in between. So I found RoofMaxx in searching different franchises, and it's a dealership model. It's not a franchise model, but it checked off a lot of boxes for me, and I was shocked to find that it wasn't. There was a Brentwood dealer, but there wasn't Franklin or Spring Hill, Columbia, Nashville. Like it really hadn't arrived here. There were a bunch of dealers. There's about 300 plus dealers, 600 cities across the country, and a lot of them were in Florida. There's a bunch of dealers in Florida, but there wasn't anybody really here, big presence here. So I did a bunch of research and signed up and bought a dealership, and away we went.
So RoofMaxx is basically, if you're not really ready to replace your roof, you can at least make some necessary needed repairs, coatings, things of that nature to get a few more years of life out of it.
Well, at first blush, and a lot of people ask the question, is it a coating? So it's an all natural soy derived or soy sourced oil that it just happens to be that the soybean, or at a molecular level, soy oil and asphalt are a perfect marriage. They're a perfect blend. Huh. So when asphalt is created, think about a road. They put the blacktop out, right? So you resurface a parking lot, or you put in a new road, and they do it with asphalt. Well, it's full of petrochemicals. It's full of oil, right? Yeah. And rock, and they blend it all together, and that's asphalt. But over time, the sun dries it out, and you go from a rich black asphalt road with fresh paint and all the rest of it to getting cracks in it, dries out, and eventually, if you don't maintain it, it gets potholes, and we know the rest of the story. Well, right. with a roof, it's a thin layer of asphalt over the top of fiberglass, and it's got pebbles on top called granules, and the pebbles are designed to keep the UV rays from getting to the asphalt to dry it out. And that's the oil and water effect. Your house gets rained on, and it just sheets the rain off, and it keeps your home protected. Nice. Which, most everyone, including myself, you just put shingles up there, and they last however long they last. And then you see a stain on your ceiling, and something's going on. I got to fix my roof. And eventually you either repair it or replace your shingles, and that's all there is. Mm-hmm. Well, these guys out of Ohio, they got tired of putting shingles on people's roofs after 15 years that were supposed to have 25, 30-year warranties, and these shingles are drying out. And so they went to kind of the story and background, how they created the company is they went to Battelle Labs, Battelle. Battelle Labs, the largest applied science and technology, oldest and largest independently owned in the world, 40,000 plus employees. They've been around for almost 100 years. And they have done a lot of products to, maintain asphalt roads. And so they asked them, can we design a product specifically for asphalt shingles to make them last longer?
Yeah.
So your question is, what is it? Is it a coating? Is it a maintenance thing? Is it what is it? It's an oil that restores the oils that have been lost because of the sun and heating and contracting what the shingle's supposed to do.
So it's like a roof remoisturizer.
Correct. Yeah. Imagine putting lotion on your face one time, it lasts for 5 years.
Right.
That's what's happening is you're restoring the oils to the asphalt in the shingle. And if you restore those oils, what it does is it keeps those granules, which are protecting it, from falling off. It slows it down dramatically. And so what you can do for, about 80% savings from replacing the roof, you can just maintain it in one coating, one treatment. Shouldn't have said coating. I used your word. It's not like a silicone coating. I tell people it's not going to look like a bad sunburn in 5 years.
It's an application.
Yeah. We spray it on and it absorbs in and becomes part of the shingle. So, one treatment lasts for 5 years. If we go up on a roof and a roof does qualify for it, then we guarantee it for 5 years. So, it's a lot less than replacing the shingles.
So, are you looking for people who have typically maybe their insurance companies turned down a roof replacement? Does that happen? I would imagine it does.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
And then so you're an alternative that can at least extend the life of the roof until the insurance company deems it necessary to replace the roof. So you're like a stopgap, I guess, right?
I'll answer that question knowing what I know now. If let's say I put a new roof on my home, and this is going to be let's just use the option A. This is going to be my forever home.
Yeah.
What my recommendation in that situation is, watch the roof, look at what's going on in the gutters. And when your gutters you see those granules start washing down, and all those little pebbles. When the moment that starts happening, if it's 5 years in, if it's 6, if it's 7 years, as soon as you see it, that's when you treat it. From that point, you can put 15 years of extra life on your roof if you just maintain it. If you don't, in this part of the country, you've probably got, anywhere, the real lifespan of a roof is not 20 to 30 years. The warranties and all this sort of thing. Every single one of every shingle manufacturer's had a class action lawsuit. They don't last 20 to 30 years.
Not anymore.
They last 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
Now you can get, you can pay more for a better quality shingle. It's a little thicker, but they are not anywhere near as thick as they were, 20, 30 years ago. I've got pictures that I pull up. In fact, I'll show you. Of a shingle from 2030, it's from the 90s, and the thickness of it, the shingles today are almost 50% thinner than they were in the 90s. Take a look at this.
So is it one of those things is it an easy application? How long does it take for a standard Spring Hill roof?
Look at this. So the bundle up top, that's from the 90s.
Yeah.
And the bundle below, that's today. That's the exact same manufacturer, exact same type.
And so for those of you listening, he's holding up a picture of literally a shingle from the 90s is probably, or the new ones are probably at least 60% less.
Yeah.
Yeah. The size of the actual shingle. So
they're much thinner.
Due to manufacturing constraints or cost savings over the years, maybe some technological innovations or not, they, like anything else, they don't make it like they used to. Let's just put it that way.
For sure. And so what's interesting about that is I have actually been on a roof in here while it was in East Nashville. And the gentleman calls me up. He's in his 80s and he's a real character. And, we got to talking on the phone and he's like, I did 3 tours in Vietnam and I was a helicopter pilot. And I'm like, wow, this guy. That's saying a lot in a sentence. And then I said, how old's your roof? He says, well, it's the original roof. And I'm like, oh boy, and He says, it's probably darn near 30 years old. And I said, well, I'll come take a look at it and I'll see if we can help you. I said, I don't want to get your hopes up. There's a chance that we're not going to be able to help rejuvenate your roof, bring it back. But I'll come take a look at it. And so I got there and we visited for a while. He's a character. He is still riding a Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Nice. Good for him.
In his 80s.
Yeah.
I'm not, and he goes,
as it should be.
I don't have no sissy wheels on it. I ride the real thing. I'm like, wow, God bless you. So I get up on his roof and he literally has a sapling that has fallen into the leaves because nobody's been up there. And so he's got a sapling that's almost an inch thick growing into his shingles. So I get up there. I'm like, I'm just going to help this guy. So I clean up all of this, get rid of all the leaves, get rid of the sapling, get all that caulked up and taken care of. And to my amazement, his roof qualified. It was because this was a 30-year-old shingle. So they were a lot thicker and he had enough granular coverage. I'm like, you're right on the razor's edge here, but we can take care of this and bring it back and get you at least 5 more years. He goes, that's all I care about. Just give me 5 more years. Let the kids worry about it. I'll be gone by then.
And it's 20% of the cost typically of a new roof?
Yeah. There's a nationwide company that does they take empirical data from different categories, about 20 different categories, whether it's kitchen remodels or an additional room or a roof replacement or whatever, and they put the aggregate, the cost of not what people were initially quoted. This is how much it's going to cost, but when the dust settled, here's what they actually paid nationwide, and then within your region, and then the closest major city. Yeah. And so the closest major, of course, it's Nashville is the closest in our area, major city, and so in this report. It had the average roof in Nashville this is for 2022, was just under $30,000 for a 3,000 square foot roof. So that's the price. The price per square foot is like almost $10 a square foot.
Well, our roof is. that makes sense because our roof is about half that. So 3,000 square feet. You're talking about the total flat coverage.
So that's
not for a 3,000 square foot house.
No, that's the roof.
Right.
So if roofs were, in people all the time, I've only got a 1,500 square foot house. How can I have a 2,500 square foot roof?
Right.
Well, if your
surface
roof,
area.
Yeah, if your roof was flat, then it would be the same. But as soon as you
put the peaks on and all
put a
that
pitch
stuff.
on it, there's not a hole in the middle of your roof.
It adds more surface area.
More surface area.
What is some of the challenges? Because you've been doing this how long?
So we got started February, so we're not quite a year into it.
So you come out of, I guess the not the hemp business, but
the wellness space.
Wellness space. Then you sold that company. What'd you do prior to that?
So I was involved in wellness with another company independently as a sales consultant for them, and I was involved in an energy startup with geothermal and worked with some luxury tech guys, in the luxury space. It's really I tell people if you give a 2-year-old a crayon and a piece of paper and have them draw on it, that's my career. It goes all over the place.
Well, you're not unlike many drummers. We're guys who like to spin plates and juggle.
Yeah,
we do a lot of different things, which goes along with what we do behind the kit. And for some reason, we always make typically good entrepreneurs. Typically, sometimes.
Well, it's not in keeping with my my one drummer joke. No, I have 2 drummer jokes.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get the pizza guy off your front porch? I messed up the joke. That's how, and often I tell it. It's how do you get the drummer off your front porch? You pay for the pizza. How do you, what do you call a drummer without a girlfriend?
Poor. Homeless. Yeah. You call him a bass player. Oh! Yes, you ever see that degram of the girls that each member of the band gets? So the lead singer typically gets 4 girls, 2 in each arm. Guitar player gets 1 girl in each arm. Drummer gets 1 girl on 1 arm, and the bass player's by himself.
Bass player jokes. Yeah.
So drummers, how do you tell when the stage is level?
I don't know.
When the drummer drools out both sides of his mouth?
Yeah.
What do you think? Call a guy who hangs out with musicians? The drummer?
The drummer.
Yeah,
that's self-depreciating humor. I often say I'm everyone else I play with are musicians. I don't have to read music. I just show up and bang on things.
Well, that's a funny thing. We're talking about a product with Rich, and he's one of these master music charters. He can go in, hear a song for the first time, chart it all out, and that's his roadmap to getting a song recorded. 2 to 3 minute song done perfectly. And he'll cut a song every half an hour and he'll do 5 songs in 3 hours at a typical demo session. Could you imagine that kind of productivity? The pressure, man. Well, time is money. So he's got his big thing is his charting system. That's what gets him through it.
Yeah, that's.
You've never learned to read?
Way back when.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like junior high, that kind of stuff. But I didn't.
Never took. I was always a memorizer.
Yeah.
To this day, if you sat down, do you play often a lot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, every Sunday in church.
But do you play like the music that you came up listening to? Woodshedding, as they call it.
Not as much anymore.
Right.
No.
So what song could you sit down and play without missing a beat or very little beats? Is there any song that comes to mind that you used to do when you were in your teens?
Gosh, bunch of Police stuff, but I wouldn't say that I wouldn't miss a beat. I don't think
That's tough stuff to pull off.
Yeah. Like
a lot of reggae.
One that I would do a lot was Murder by Numbers.
Murder by Numbers. Yeah, it's got a nice little swing to it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Mine would be Come Sail Away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe Don't Stop Believing, Journey.
Well, did you play it the right way?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
How does it played?
Well,
it's a left-hand lead.
Well, I actually went to a clinic in Fresno.
With Steve Smith?
With Steve Smith.
Yeah.
And I asked him specifically afterwards. He did his clinic, he was like questions and answers. I'm like, how'd you come up with that? What was the genesis of it? And he kind of went through the whole thing and later on his, website or whatever, he talked about it that night. And
was he wearing his Argyle socks?
I don't remember his socks.
He had 2 videos back in the 80s, maybe early 90s, that I used to watch, instructional videos that us geeks would watch. Greg Bissonette had an amazing one called Private Lessons. Mm-hmm. Steve Smith had 2 of them, and he actually did in one of them. This is back when he had hair. He had the giant, 80s glasses.
Steve Carl glasses.
Yes. And he had Argyle socks because they would have the foot cam showing what he did on his feet.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was a jazz guy.
Yeah.
Kind of bougie jazz guy.
Yeah. Even Steve Perry said in later years, he said, if I could go back and change anything, I probably wouldn't have fired Steve Smith.
Did they fire him?
Yeah, he fired him and the bass player. And that's where he got
Ross Valerie?
He fired Ross and Steve, and they brought in is it Jackson? What's his name from?
Oh, Randy Jackson.
Yeah, they brought in Randy, and I forget who the drummer was.
Well, the guy they got now is
he's a
beast.
Monster. Dean Castronova.
Oh my
he's a beast.
God.
Have you ever heard him sing?
Yes.
Whoever's listening
better than both of them.
Whoever's listening, if you haven't heard Dean Castronova sing for Journey and you love Journey, you should after the podcast listen to the podcast. But when you're done, YouTube, Dean Castronova, Mother, Father.
Yeah, OMG.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and he plays the song.
While he's playing,
he's playing.
My gosh,
and
that guy's got
for the layman, if you're listening, if you're not a musician, you're not a drummer especially, playing the drums is enough as it is.
Oh, my gosh.
When you throw in the 6th, or I guess 5th or 6th limb of singing, oh, dude.
It's a whole different animal.
Yeah. I mean, these guys like Phil Collins, Dean Castronovo, who else? Don Henley, who sings and plays at the same time.
Yeah.
Hotel California has got a sweet lick to it. Right?
Yeah.
You got to appreciate those types of songs because there's soul in it, right? But Don't Stop Believing, the reason why I always talk about that song to different drummers, do you play it the right way? Is because there's a specific, very intentional way that sets that song apart. Right. And then you got to put the bell of the ride in there.
Ding, ding.
That's right. And it's a left-hand lead because he goes around the kit with his right hand.
Yep.
I played that song and I always mess it up. My brother's in a Journey tribute band up in Detroit.
Oh, there you go.
And dare I say the drummer doesn't play it right. It's like, dude, come on.
Like, here, we gotta do this because, you know.
You got it pulled up?
Yeah, I got it pulled up. Like, I'll just play a couple of seconds of it, not like go crazy on it, but let me try to bring it to.
We're geeking out on business and drums, guys.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's see. Oh no, this is Here We Ride.
That's still fine. Listen to him. He's singing and playing.
And he sounds like Steve.
He sounds better than Steve Perry, in my opinion. He certainly sounds better than Arnel Pineda. I don't know if you know this, but I'm very opinionated when it comes to certain things. And I'm unapologetic when it comes to, you know, musical stuff like that. It's like my brother and I, you know, vehemently agree that he's just a beast. He's a beast. It's like they had to get rid of him about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
No, it was more like 6 years ago.
It was so short time.
I think it was like 6 years ago.
Because they brought Steve Smith back in.
Yeah.
And then,
they tried to take over the band.
Yes, they had almost a corporate takeover.
Yeah.
Hostile takeover, I guess.
Yep.
And then, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy because they brought Dean back in. And
they brought another drummer in first.
That's right. Yeah, it was a different guy. They had the mainstays of the band were always
what you say,
Neil Sean and Jonathan Kane.
Yeah.
They went through singers. They've gone through drummers. They've gone through bass players. But Neil and Jonathan have always been the mainstays.
So he left in 2015.
Dean did. Yeah, after he had a little bit of a run-in with his domestic issues. Yeah.
And I think they were, and Dean would say, I watched an interview and he said, it was, they did the right thing and it was, and I needed to get my act together and I had a mess to clean up.
Yeah.
And then he did.
He's one of the guys that I would love to, like Rich and I get a lot of, heroes of ours on his podcast because he's got the reach and he can, people will actually respond to him and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, we got to get Dino on.
Oh, man.
I would love to talk to him.
He seems like a really humble dude, too.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these guys are, man. I mean, a lot of these guys we talked to on his podcast, we've talked to Huey Lewis. We've talked to Charlie Benante. Danny Seraphin was in some of the first episodes that we had. A lot of songwriters here in Nashville, big-time songwriters. Artists, we had David Cook in, who won American Idol back in 2008. He's got quite a career. Oh, really funny, down-to-earth people, man. No airs.
What is, you said American Idol, and it reminded me. I'll remember it in just a second.
We're not even talking about business stuff, man. This is a fun conversation.
It's Matt. Fun. You should get Matt on. Matt Rogers. He's he was on.
Yeah.
Do you know Matt?
I know Matt. I know we're acquainted with each other.
He's a great guy.
I've been actually, he is a great guy. I've actually, one of the podcasts I produced, the Stronger Than My Father podcast. Check it out at strongerthanmyfather.org.
Yep. Marcus
was fortunate enough to get Matt Rogers on his podcast. Yeah, he's a beast too, man. He lives right here in town.
Yeah. He lives.
But I mean, it's I've reached out to him a couple of times, but maybe somebody will know him. Say, hey, Jim McCarthy wants you on. If you know him, maybe you can put a bug in his ear.
I'll text him for you. You know who else you should have on?
Who's that?
Jason Miller is another great guy. He owns Christian Brothers Automotive.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to have him on.
I just had lunch with him today. Great guy. Really great. You want to talk about a business that's doing things right in town?
Really?
They do a great job.
I had a good experience with Honest One Auto Care. They're down by across from actually the car wash that we have our lights in, Washtopia.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
By Kroger, McDonald's, the Port Royal area.
Yeah.
And I had to go in there because I had a check engine light pop on. They checked it out. Didn't even charge me. It turns out later on we had to take our bucket truck here and have an electrical issue. All the other places that we typically would go through, they're all booked up. These guys got it right in. I think it was kind of outside their purview, but got it all taken care of for us, man. And the cool thing about us, because J Squared and what we do with Magnitude, the colored lighting that we do, you go by their repair shop. They have lights in their parking lot that I guess were put in when they, probably 7 years ago when they came to town. And back then, a lot of the lights had issues technologically with the chipboards. So some of these lights are turning purple. Mm-hmm. So they've gone from white to purple. So they lose some of the blue spectrum, or actually, maybe the green. It would be the green spectrum. So they turn purple. And it's like, I drove by there one night. I'm going, all of them are purple. I'm like, that looks fantastic. The whole parking lot is purple, and it stands out like a sore thumb. It catches your eye. So I go in there yesterday, and I said, so what's the deal with your parking lot lights here, guys? And they're like, oh, yeah, the chipboards went out. Their lights are problematic. I said, man, I got to tell you, whether it's problematic, it looks fan-freaking-tastic.
Just keep it.
And they're like, yeah, well, the city of Spring Hill doesn't like it. I said, you know what? Tell them to freaking eat it, because they need to build some damn infrastructure rather than worrying about the color of your lights. And they got a laugh out of that. I said, but if they do get on your back about it, we can actually help you. Cheap plug right now. I'm just going to say it. We've got a whole bunch of lighting product in our warehouse that we need to move. So
this place is all lit up.
It's all lit up, brother. But there's a guest that I've been trying. I get these hunches, right? And when I first moved here, I had a hunch when we moved into our house. It wasn't about getting hit by hail, for sure, with a howitzer on the side of the house, like we discussed earlier. But I told my wife, I said, I just feel like at some point living in this house, we're going to have like relatively known music stars, country music stars in this house singing and, performing and stuff. I don't know how. I don't know why. I just do. It wouldn't surprise me. And I came up with a video product, 0809. I called it VidSigs. And I had a multitude of people that recorded them. They were videos that authentically showed who a business owner or influencer or, artist or whoever here around here, who they truly were. Mm-hmm. And I did it in such a manner that it was unscripted, unposed. It was really that person. They become very comfortable once, the camera disappears and they start talking. So I've had like Reggie Ham on, I had Mignon Francois from the Cupcake Collection, a bunch of different people of somewhat note. And then out of the blue, I get a phone call from Tim Rushlow, who was in Little Texas and Rushlow and all sorts of different bands. Certainly a guy with tremendous feathers in his cap with all that he's done. Mm-hmm. He goes, hey, I saw Reggie's video. I'm in a project now called The Frontmen with Larry Stewart from Restless Heart and Richie McDonald from Lone Star. Now, if you're familiar with those bands, Restless Heart was more of like, late 80s, early 90s act, classic country almost. Rushlow has, had... I Can't Be Your Friend Anymore. And also Little Texas was God Bless Texas and what might have been great songs. But Lone Star had the wedding song of wedding songs in the early millennium with Amaze.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, okay, sure.
I mean, massive crossover hit, right? Yeah. And Richie McDonald's got one of those voices similar to Steve Perry's. That's unmistakable, iconic, right? So lo and behold, I get this opportunity to have these guys in my front living room and, do a video like I normally do and promoting what they're doing, but also performing. What a night.
And you look at your wife and you said,
what did I tell you?
Told you.
So here's my latest hunch.
Okay.
I'm getting another.
You're getting a hunch.
Yeah. I feel like Dennis Quaid is going to be on this podcast.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
So anybody listening that knows anybody that knows Dennis Quaid or the man himself, let him know. I just feel like I've reached out to him. I think he lives here in town.
Does he?
Yeah. He does a lot of Christian movies now. I think he's kind of reborn.
Yeah.
I just feel like he's going to be on. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he is. For some reason, he pops into my head. My wife has a premonition about Tom Selleck. And I said, why? She's like, it's not because all the women thought he was hot. I just feel like I've always known him. It's like, I always felt every time he came on, we watch the TV show he was on, Tom Selleck.
Yeah. I was just doing the dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Back in the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah. Says, it's not that I was like attracted to him or anything. I just felt like we just know each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird, but I get that. I feel like Dennis and I would have a great conversation.
Yeah?
Yeah. So,
He
sounds
seems like
crazy, I know.
He seems like a good guy.
He does. He does. He seems like just a down. I mean, dude, he's a great actor, iconic. I remember watching him in Inner Space back in the 80s with Martin Short and Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was in a lot of The Rookie. Great movie, man. Unbelievable movie.
Well,
So getting back to business. What challenges? Because I mean, a lot of your background is so varied with corporate America. You spin plates, you juggle. Getting into roofing and getting up on roofs. I mean,
yeah, I'm the guy.
What am I thinking?
People are like, so how many employees you have? I'm like, well, it's me and the mouse in my pocket.
Right.
You know, my wife and I, you know, she handles. I tell people she runs around behind me with a dustpan and a broom.
Right.
Keeping everything organized and you know, doing all the accounting and all the rest of that. But I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to get my hands dirty and know what it was that I was doing. And you know, to the company's credit, they do a pretty robust training period. Yeah. And it's not super complicated in terms of applying the product. I tell people a well-trained circus animal could apply this to your roof. The star of the show isn't the person applying it; it's the product itself.
So you're doing the inspecting and the actual performance of the work.
And I get up there. I'm on the roof. I'm looking at. As a matter of fact, I was on a friend's roof recently, and I really I wanted to help him because I didn't want him to have to incur the expense of a new roof. But in his case, it was a 15-year-old shingle. And there was just, when those granules came off, it exposes that asphalt to the sun, to the UV rays.
Done.
And they were gone. Like there wasn't enough asphalt left to help them. And I just said, you're 15 years in, and I'm sorry. You're just in. That's not really for us. It's not a bait and switch company. It is our product. There are companies out there that, have a big dog and pony show, and then they get there and say, "Oh, you don't qualify. How about a new roof?"
Yeah.
This isn't that. I don't. I'm not coming out there to sell you a new roof. I'm out there to help you save the one you have. But yeah, it's me up on the roof, and I'm taking pictures and videos, and actually more times than not, when I get up on a roof, you'd be amazed at how many holes there are on people's roofs.
Oh yeah,
They've
sure.
got literally, they have holes.
Yeah.
In their ridge caps, and a lot of them are right on the where the birds perch. Yeah. And they bounce around up there and look around for what's next.
Because they're pecking at it.
Their claws. No, as they transition and shift from left to right up there, and they're looking around, their little claws are scraping on those shingles. They put holes in them.
Wow.
So we maintain that. That's one of the things we do. Yeah. We go up there. If you need to swap out some shingles and that sort of thing, we do that.
Sure.
Take care of all that, buttoning it all up. So then when somebody's done, their roof's in great shape, and they got 5 years of warranty to go along with it.
So basically it's like this. So I'd imagine you have maybe financing plans to go along with it, right? Yep. So it's easy peasy. You don't have to put an insurance claim in, so you're not going to get insurance rate jacked up. It adds 5 years to the life of your roof at least.
Yep.
So
Guaranteed.
It's kind of a win-win. It's not like you're telling them not to get your roof, because you're going to tell them, be honest, like, no, you got to get your roof replaced. I got a guy. And in our chapter, it's Boutique with Quality Exteriors that does the roof replacements, and you guys help each other out quite a bit, because he refers you business when he's a straight up dude too.
Yeah,
he's like, hey, you don't need your roof replaced. You just need to call my friend David.
Yeah, we just talked yesterday. He was kind enough to give me the shout out in our last meeting. If they don't need a new roof, then rejuvenate yours. Provide maintenance for
Remoisturize it.
Yeah, just put the oil back in the shingle. It'll do what it's supposed to do for another 5, 10, 15 years even sometimes. If you get 15 more years out of your life from maintaining it,
you save yourself
for a fraction of the price of replacing it. Why would you want to spend all that money on it?
You're saving yourself a Honda Accord.
Right?
Yeah.
Literally.
At it.
And here's the other thing. Most people are only in their house for an average of 7 years.
Yeah, not us.
So do you really want to drop
We're on 18.
30? Do you really want to drop $30,000 on the next 3 people that own the house on their roof?
Well, it'll be the insurance company that drops that kind of coin, but not, you got to make up for it in the premiums.
Well, not all of them. And here's the other thing that's happening too. Not all of them, not all insurance companies will actually take care of you when the time comes. I've heard a lot of that.
You need an advocate on your side that actually fights for it.
Yeah, and sometimes those are called attorneys.
Yeah.
And number 2, if you put too many claims in, then
they'll cut you off.
They'll cut you off, and now you're answering the question: have you ever had your insurance canceled?
Yeah.
And now you have to say yes. And then now that you've had your insurance canceled, guess what happens?
Good luck.
You have much higher premiums.
Right.
And coupled with that, insurance companies are literally sending out notices now to their customers saying, we are getting out of the roofing business.
Yeah.
We didn't get into
Middle
this.
Tennessee.
Yeah, we didn't get in this to be, we
don't actually want to pay for this
the
stuff.
knee-jerk roof replacement deal. So there are still some good companies out there that do a really good job, but just, be aware. There are also clauses for some insurance companies.
Sure.
Have you maintained your roof? Do you have any evidence of inspecting there's a lot of, boxes that we check just by coming out and looking at it.
You got a lot of passion for this, and you're in it just about a year.
Yeah. Just
under a year. What are some of the challenges you've had?
Mostly I would say the number one challenge in this is, what I'm doing a little bit of everything, right? The number one challenge is just knowing about it. It's just knowing that you can actually, people know that, hey, if your paint is peeling on the side of your house, scrape off that excess paint and, protect your siding. You put a new coat of paint on it. We know about maintenance in a lot of different areas. We know to change the oil in our cars.
Sure.
Right? But knowing that you can change the oil essentially on your roof and extend its life up to 15 years for way less money than replacing it is not common knowledge.
So basically,
that's the biggest problem.
Making people aware that this even exists.
Making it aware. Like in Florida, they've reached a tipping point now. There's enough dealers down there. There's enough advertising. There's enough of people. What is that thing again? I keep seeing that on social media, or now I'm hearing it on the radio, or I've seen it on commercials. They've now reached a point where people, their first instinct isn't just replace the shingles. Their first instinct is, what's that company again that I can do something for less money?
Yeah.
And now they're thinking that.
So basically, if someone is putting their kid to bed and all of a sudden they notice a wet spot on their ceiling, the first, at least in my mind, is like, oh, crap, what's this going to run me, right?
Yeah, sure.
So now we can at least have that option of saying, no, there's an alternative. This is fixable, and it's not going to, eat my lunch.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
in most cases, if you have a leak, they're coming through a pipe, what's called a pipe vent.
Yeah, around the boot.
It's a boot that's cracked, or maybe there's flashing around the chimney. In most cases, that's what's going on.
Yeah, and you can take care of that?
100%. In fact, we do in our tune-ups. That's what we do.
You do tune-ups?
Yeah, we'll do.
You do anything like where HVAC companies for a yearly cost, they do all the cleaning and all that stuff?
We don't in that case. It's not something that we can't do.
Right.
But we just recommend we'll just come out and once a year, just come out, let us take a look at it, make sure everything's buttoned up. For our customers, we're happy to do that.
All right.
But we don't have like an ongoing charge for that.
Right. So you just need to build a sales team, people that go out there doing what you do to replicate yourself.
Yeah, I think what's next for us is exactly that. It's a sales team, and then finding some guys. I jokingly say, once we get our feet under us and really understand the business, understand what how the community is responding to it, just get our arms wrapped around this. Get a sales team in place, and then I'll hire some college-aged young strapling guys to go. I'll throw those guys on all the 12-pitch roofs. And
what about just doing like drones, getting up there and doing that kind of thing?
Yeah, you could. And there are.
But with the FAA's crackdown that they're doing, it's kind of tough because they got to be Part 107 licensed and all that stuff.
Yeah,
well, at least somebody on premise has to be.
Well, that's. I don't know about that. I know roofers are using a lot of drones.
Yeah.
And in a larger sales context, that would make sense.
Yeah.
There is value though to putting your feet on a roof and feeling the decking, because the last thing you want to do is recommend that. Yes, you can rejuvenate your roof. You get up there and you feel. So I've been on roofs that I just literally got right off. I'm like, I am not going to be on this roof because the decking was so soft.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to go right through the roof and be land on the kitchen table.
Right.
So
at that point, you just got to recommend you just got to replace your roof.
Yeah, you need a new roof. Yeah. And in some, if somebody had a leak, call us out.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, are we going to replace your roof? No, Well, we're going to look at it, see if we can identify what's going on. If you need a roofer, I'm going to tell you need a roofer.
We're going to rejuvenate your roof. Yeah. That's what we do.
Make it last another 5. If we catch it early enough, like here's a perfect example. My buddy that we couldn't help him because
too far gone.
Show you pictures. Yeah, there was just too far gone. There wasn't enough asphalt left to rejuvenate. So I was talking to his friend, I'd recently met, and I said, listen, I really wanted to help him. He's like, what is it? Your van says, think you need a new roof, think again. What is this stuff against? We were talking about it.
Yeah.
And I said, I really wanted to, help him. I said, if I would have caught his roof maybe 2 years earlier, I probably could have gotten him another 10 years of life out of it.
Yeah.
He's like, really? He goes, my roof's 13 years old.
Oof.
I said, well, let me come look at it. So I did, came out and looked at it. And he had some issues up there. He had some, holes in his roof and some shingles that were cracking and some different things that had happened, And here's another great thing. If we get the storms are coming up here. We're getting into wintertime.
Yeah.
When you look up there and you're missing, you might be missing 1, 2, 3, half a dozen shingles, whatever, get blown off. Absolutely, that's when you need to call us, because those sealant strips, when they dry out, they start flapping in the wind, and because they're dry, they'll crack. When the wind gets on them, those straight line winds, they'll blow them off. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need a new roof. We can put some new shingles on there for you and do that.
Yeah.
Rejuvenate the roof, put the oils back in. It'll reactivate those sealant tabs so that they're now holding, right? We've got roofs in videos of roofs in Florida that, were 10-year-old roofs that we treated. The whole neighborhood, they went through a Category 4 hurricane, and those winds came through and ripped their neighbors' roofs. They all had to be replaced, and they didn't lose a single shingle.
Wow.
So it really does work. It's an amazing product. It's now the highest rated roofing company in America. Over 5,000 5-star reviews. People absolutely love it.
There you go.
It does what it says.
How do people find and follow you?
So you can see us on at RoofMaxx, and if you go to Instagram locally, we're RoofMaxx of Franklin. You can find us. Our phone number is 380-6070. So 615-380-6070.
RoofMaxx of Franklin. I'm looking you up.
Yeah, RoofMaxx of Franklin. If you Google us, 2 X's in RoofMaxx. And it's because it's a dealership and part of a...
There's a lot of underscores in it.
Yeah, the short version.
Is it getroofmax.com? Is that your website, or is that the corporate?
The better way to find us is just Google RoofMaxx of Franklin.
There you go. Of course, we're going to put all the details in the description as well. You got to get all that to me so I can get it right.
Yeah.
But great conversation. Thanks for talking drums and roofs and business. And
Dean Castronova.
That's right. Dean Castronova, my friend. Man, thanks for coming on. This is the inaugural episode of the rebranded, mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. Like I said, we are trying for, at least for 2024, 10,000 average downloads. We're not there yet, not even by a long shot. Maybe 5-10% there. But, this is where you start. So hopefully the new name will attract some more bees to the hive, because that's what this podcast is all about. Very focused. Middle Tennessee is a lot going on. Let your friends know about it. That we talk to all Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. If you know somebody who would love to be, or is a good candidate to be on the podcast, let us know. Hit us up there at mmtbp.com. mmtbp.com. The longer version of that is mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. A mouthful. I had to get it. It's the best name I could come up with, okay? My creative brain cells are kind of going out the door. Maybe too much drumming. Maybe that happens. So
more cowbells.
More cowbells. Crazy. David, always a pleasure to talk to you. And thanks for coming out here, my friend.
Thanks for having me.